August 1945. Kiichiro Toyota stood among the smouldering ruins of his factory in Kuromo, Japan, staring at a landscape of charred timber and twisted metal. The American B-29s had spared his main plant by only a matter of days, but the company was already a ghost, crippled by debt and a nation in total collapse. His workers were scavenging for scraps of food in the rubble, and his dream of an all-Japanese automobile seemed like a terminal delusion. Within 50 years, this broken remnant of the Japanese Empire would metastasize into a global hegemon, a manufacturing cult that would teach the world the meaning of efficiency and eventually seize the crown as the world's largest automaker. But the Toyota way is not just about reliable sedans and clever assembly lines. Beneath the reputation for quality lies a brutal culture of overwork, a history of suppressing safety defects that proved fatal, and a massive lobbying machine designed to stifle the electric vehicle revolution. This is the story of the machine that conquered the world through the cold, relentless pursuit of perfection. The roots of the Toyota empire do not lie in the smell of gasoline or the roar of an engine, but in the rhythmic, hypnotic clatter of wooden looms. Sakichi Toyota, the father of the founder, was a man obsessed with movement. In the late 19th century, while Japan was still shaking off the dust of its feudal past, Sakichi was inventing an automatic power loom that would stop instantly if a single thread snapped. This was the birth of Jidoka, or autonomous automation. It was a concept that treated a machine as something that could think for itself, preventing the waste of a ruined fabric. In 1929, Sakichi sold the patent rights for his loom to a British firm for £100,000. It was a staggering sum, and he handed it to his son, Kiichiro, with a single command: build an automobile. Kiichiro Toyota was not a car guy in the romantic sense. He was an industrialist who saw the automobile as the ultimate test of Japanese ingenuity. He spent the early 1930s tearing apart Chevrolets and Fords, reverse engineering the American dream in a corner of his father's textile factory. By 1937, Toyota Motor Corporation was its own entity, but the timing was cursed. Japan was descending into a fever dream of militarism and imperial expansion. The government quickly seized control of Toyota production, demanding trucks for the conquest of China and eventually the war against the Allies. During the war, Toyota trucks were stripped of every luxury, featuring only one headlight in the center of the hood and wooden brakes. The company was a cog in the imperial Japanese war machine, a role that nearly led to its total annihilation when the US military planned to firebomb the Kuromo plant just weeks before the surrender. The post-war years were a descent into hell. The Japanese economy was a smoking crater. Toyota was bankrupt, facing a massive strike in 1950 that threatened to end the company before it truly began. Kiichiro, the man who had sacrificed everything for his father's dream, was forced to resign to settle the labor dispute. He died 2 years later, never seeing the global conquest he had set in motion. In his place stepped Taiichi Ohno, the man who would become the architect of Toyota's darkest and most effective weapon, the Toyota production system. Ohno was a man who hated waste with a religious fervor. He looked at the American assembly lines, pioneered by Henry Ford, and saw them as bloated and inefficient. Ford made millions of the same car and kept them in massive warehouses, waiting for buyers. Ohno did not have that luxury. He had no space, no money, and no raw materials. He visited an American supermarket in the 1950s and had an epiphany. In a grocery store, customers take only what they need and the store replenishes only what was taken. This became just-in-time manufacturing. Every part arrived at the assembly line exactly when it was needed, not a second before. If a worker found a defect, they pulled the andon cord, stopping the entire factory. On the surface, it was a miracle of logic, but the human cost of this lean system was immense. The The Toyota production system turned human beings into extensions of the machine. The pressure to meet quotas with zero margin for error created an environment where every second was scrutinised and any deviation was a sin against the company. This was the beginning of the Karawishi, or death from overwork. In the pursuit of the perfect car, Toyota demanded the perfect employee, a person who lived and breathed for the company, often at the expense of their own health and family. By the 1970s, the world was ready for Toyota. The oil crisis of 1973 sent gas prices skyrocketing, and the gas-guzzling monsters of Detroit became dinosaurs overnight. Suddenly, the strange small cars from Japan, the Corolla and the Celica, weren't jokes anymore. They were lifelines. They were cheap, they never broke down, and they sipped fuel. Toyota didn't just enter the American market, it invaded it. Throughout the 80s and 90s, Toyota became synonymous with reliability. They were the safe choice, the rational choice. They launched Lexus in 1989, proving they could out-engineer Mercedes-Benz and BMW at their own game. In the early 2000s, Toyota set an aggressive goal to capture 15% of the global market share. They wanted to be the biggest automaker in the world, surpassing General Motors. In their rush to expand, the focus on quality, the very foundation of their brand, began to fracture. The lean system was stretched too thin, design cycles were shortened, and engineers were pushed beyond their breaking points. The result was a catastrophe that would nearly destroy the company reputation. In 2009, the world watched in horror as reports of sudden unintended acceleration began to surface. Toyota cars were turning into unguided missiles, speeding up on highways while drivers mashed the brakes to no avail. A horrific 911 call from a California highway patrolman, Mark Saylor, captured the final moments of his life and 3 family members as their Lexus ES350 accelerated to 120 miles per hour before launching off an embankment. The cause was allegedly a floor map that trapped the accelerator pedal, but investigators soon pointed to something more sinister: faulty electronic throttle control systems. Toyota's response was a masterclass in corporate denial and victim blaming. They initially blamed the drivers or the floor mats, refusing to acknowledge potential software or mechanical flaws. It took years of litigation, a $1.2 billion criminal penalty from the US Department of Justice, and millions of recalled vehicles to uncover the truth. Internal emails revealed that Toyota employees had bragged about saving the company hundreds of millions of dollars by negotiating a limited recall with regulators. They had put a price tag on human life. Akio Toyoda, the grandson of the founder, was forced to testify before the US Congress, weeping in front of the cameras as he apologised for the company lost way. Even as they recovered from the recall scandal, a new shadow was falling over the empire. For decades, Toyota had been the king of the green car world thanks to the Prius. Released in 1997, the Prius was a revolution, the first mass-produced hybrid that made environmentalism a status symbol. But that success became a trap. Toyota became so convinced that hybrids were the final destination that they ignored the rise of the fully electric vehicle. While Tesla was building a cult and China was subsidising a massive EV infrastructure, Toyota sat on the sidelines betting everything on hydrogen fuel cells, a technology that remains expensive, complex and nearly impossible to fuel for the average driver. When the tide finally turned and the world began to demand EVs, Toyota didn't pivot, they fought back. They became one of the world's most prolific lobbyists against climate regulations, joining hands with oil companies to weaken fuel economy standards in the United States and Europe. They used their massive influence to protect their investment in internal combustion and hybrid technology, arguing that the world wasn't ready for electricity. To many, the once innovative giant had become a dinosaur, desperately trying to stop the meteor from hitting. Today, Toyota still sits at the top of the mountain by many metrics, selling over 10 million vehicles a year. Their machines are still the backbone of the developing world. The Hilux pickup truck is so durable it has become the unofficial vehicle of both NGOs and insurgent militias in every desert on the planet. But the cracks are widening. In 2023 and 2024, a massive safety testing scandal erupted at Daihatsu, a Toyota subsidiary. It was revealed that the company had been rigging safety tests for over 30 years, falsifying crash data to get cars to market faster. The culture of the machine had once again prioritised the quota over the person. The story of Toyota is the story of the 20th century itself, a rise from the ashes of war, a triumph of logic and engineering, and an eventual descent into the arrogance of power. They built a system so efficient it changed how everything on Earth is made, from aeroplanes to smartphones. They created a standard of reliability that forced every other manufacturer to improve or die. But in the process, they created a corporate religion that often forgets the humans it is meant to serve. As the industry shifts toward a digital electric future, the giant from Koromo finds itself at a crossroads. It can either adapt the genius of its founders to a new era, or it can continue to cling to the gears and pistons of the past until the world passes it by. The looms have long since stopped rattling, replaced by the silent hum of robots and the clicking of keyboards, but the ghost of the thread that must never snap still haunts the assembly line. This is the story of the empire that refined the world, and the price we all pay for the perfect machine.